Welcome to Upstack America's IT training programs. My name is Bob and I'm the IT training lead for Upstack America. Today's training is on data science and specifically on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Our trainer will take us through today's session is Paul DeBacker. Paul is a data scientist with outstanding work experience managing digital transformation projects on artificial intelligence and machine learning. He also holds extensive experience as a solution architect for robotics process automation, and also he has experience as a developer for robotics process automation. Paul holds a Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning from the University of Texas in Austin. He also holds a first-class honors Bachelor of Technology degree from Anna University, Chennai. Thank you for watching and we hope you will enjoy the training.
So now let's get into this portion of data science. So have you known anything about data science? Do you have any idea what data science is all about?
My general idea is
Yes. Anything. Yes.
data analytics.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Data analytics to assist
Yeah.
companies in decision making.
Absolutely, you are pretty much bang on. So data science is a bigger umbrella or is a parent domain where we have various parts called AI, which is artificial intelligence, machine learning, ML, deep learning called as DL. So deep learning is an advanced version of machine learning. We have data analytics, where from data, I want to identify what this data is telling about. So let's say I have a company's sales history of last 1 year and it is given to me. I have to find what is this sales data of this company telling. So every data has its own voice. I mean, data doesn't have a voice, but it has a story. So analytics of data helps us to dig out or nothing but identify what is this, we call it as hidden pattern in data science language. So every data has a hidden pattern associated. So what is this pattern that we are trying to generate from machine learning using in data and come out with a data analytics or data insight? So if I have a sales data of a company, let's say I have Amazon's 1 year sales data. It's a huge data. Now the analytics team of Amazon, what they will do, they will try to identify various hidden patterns in this data. And from this pattern, they will try to join the dots and bring out some insight. Now, what could be the sales data? How can a sales data look like? The sales data can have information of their customer, how many items the customer bought, the date of purchase, what is the price of each item, how many items are sold, how many times, correct? Which location the customer was in, okay? Any product, if it was returned or not, what is the feedback of that product, what is the rating of that product, okay? How many customers bought this from let's say iPhone, how many customers bought iPhone from Amazon, how many customers returned iPhone from Amazon after buying. So all these are sales data can comprise of. Now, utilizing this sales data, I can come up with hundreds of business insights which the data is trying to tell me, and this I can identify using my data analytics or machine learning and see what this data is telling me and take this insights or outcome and come back and rectify my business model. Now, let's say the 1 year Amazon data showed that anybody who bought, and this is hypothetical, and anybody who bought iPhone 10 from Amazon got 20% discount. Okay. So that, and anyone who bought iPhone 11 got 10% discount. That means when the data is analyzed, they can say, okay, so Amazon gave 10% more discount to the customers who bought iPhone 10 compared to the customers who bought iPhone 11. Whereas iPhone 11 is a new model where iPhone 10 is an old model. So is my discount justified? Okay. Now, obviously this discount is justified because iPhone 11 is the latest model, so Amazon gave 10%, whereas for iPhone 10, they might have wanted to increase the sale, they give 20% discount. Now, let's say iPhone 12. Okay, recently launched, right? Now Amazon has given 15%, let's say, uh, how much they gave for iPhone 11, they give 10%, but let's say for 12 they are giving 15% discount. Now this is a business insight. Now Amazon will say, okay, we gave 15% to our iPhone 12, but hey, this is the newest model compared to iPhone 11, so 15% discount might not be justified because it's a new product. So we can increase our revenue by reducing the discount on the latest product. So they can go back and try to reduce the discount. So these are the various insights. So let's say 1,000 customers bought iPhone 11 from Amazon, out of which 300 customers has returned because they received the product defective. Let's say it was broken while shipping, or the box was not sealed, whatever the reason. So this is what the data is telling to the Amazon analytics team, that hey, you sold 1,000 iPhone last year, out of which 300 devices were returned by the customer, and the reason was this: they received a defect. It can be multiple reasons. Let's say out of 300, 100 was defective product, 50 where box was not sealed, 3 were 20 or 100 where some other issue, the charger was not there or whatever. So these are the kind of customer insights that the data tells me. Now what Amazon will do, Amazon will go back and check who was the retailer who shipped this product without an iPhone, where iPhone product box was not sealed, the seal was broken. So Amazon now can go and take corrective actions with that specific vendor. So Amazon and Go will say the retailer, hey, you sold 30 iPhones yesterday through our platform, out of which I see the customer has returned 20 because 20 out of 30, the seal of the iPhone pack was broken. What was the reason? This is a loss for Amazon. Then they can go and take some action against that vendor, whatever is their business model. If they want to stop their alliance with that vendor, they want to remove that vendor or whatever. So how this Amazon can do this? Only when data is analyzed and you are coming out with some real-time insights. So if Amazon does not analyze the data and don't take a corrective action against that retailer, even in 2021, if anyone buys iPhone from Amazon, this retailer can still go ahead and send defective phones or phones which are not sealed. That means it's a revenue loss, right? It's impacting business. So this is how data is the new oil. So if you look into the Gartner or the Forbes articles on data science, they say data is the new oil. You can bring magic in today's world if you know how to deal with data. It's data, 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 and data. Every second, how much data we generate? Just imagine how many Facebook posts. Let's Google. Let's Google and say Facebook posts per day. So how many posts does Facebook receive on a basis? So almost 300 million photos gets uploaded per day in Facebook worldwide. Imagine the enormous amount of data. 300 million Facebook receives only photos. Forget about profiles, ads, videos and all these things. Only photos. How many Google search happens per day? Google search per second across world. It is estimated that Google approximately processes 70,000 search queries every second, translating 5.8 billion searches per day, approximately 2 trillion global searches per year. Imagine per day, 5.8 billion search, 70,000 search per second. That means the second I used Google search per engine, I typed it, 70 other thousand searches happened right in that second. That's the amount of data. That's the power of data in today's industry. right? So what is data science? Extraction of knowledge. That's what I said. That means insights from large corpus or volume of data which can be structured or unstructured. So we will get to know what is a structured data, what is an unstructured data in the subsequent part in our future classes. So data science is a continuation of the field like data mining, where you dig enormous amount of data and do some predictive analytics. So predict now analytics also has different parts. Data analytics is a another subdomain which is vast inside data science. So we have predictive analytics, we have prescriptive analytics, we have statistical analytics. There are various forms of it. Okay. Now what is the data science pipeline looks like? So there are various types of pipeline that comes into your data science engine. So you have a raw data where is your, let's say you have, I just pulled out 1 year sales data from Amazon, from the web, from the database. Now this data will also have lot of unwanted data that don't need. It will be a combination of wanted and unwanted data, right? So that's why we do on the raw data, we do a data cleanup. Okay. So whatever data we don't need from the raw data, we just remove those data. So we clean up the data, we improve or update so after cleaning up, we explore the data. That means once I have the data ready, I will now analyze the data and try to understand what is this data telling me all about. Okay. What is, how many customers bought iPhone, how many, from which location of United States more customers ordered iPhone, what are the durations, how many sales I had on a Thanksgiving day, how many sales I had on Christmas, how many iPhones were sold on New Year. All these are my data analysis that I'm going to do on this part. Once I have my data analysis and trends ready, I will create a data model, or we call it as feature engineering. So I will come to all these jargons later. Might be a Greek and Latin for you, but the more we get depth in, you will understand all this concept. So we create a data model, we do feature engineering. That means we create a data model to learn the hidden patterns from the data. What is a model? A model is nothing but a program that learns what the hidden data patterns are there in my data and helps to bring out those insights. So I create or design a model, and the model learns what the data is talking about. Once it learns, we do a lot of testing. We wanted to verify whether what the model has learned about the data. Let's say the model has learned that United States sold maximum, in United States, they sold maximum iPhone from Florida region in last Thanksgiving. So whether the model has validated or identified it properly, whether what the model has come out to understand, is it accurate or not. So we have to test it also, right? So a lot of testing happens to understand whether the learning of the model is correct or not, right? So entire pipeline, what we need a domain knowledge. So domain knowledge in data science is very, very important. Now, domain knowledge is nothing but the people who works in that specific process. Okay, so anybody who is a process expert, so somebody who is at the procurement team of Amazon, okay, or who is working at the sales process of Amazon will know how many, what are the various data that comes into Amazon sales team, rather than, somebody who is a data scientist in an Amazon. So the data scientist of Amazon will go and connect with the sales expert of Amazon to understand if he does not know what specific data is telling about. So that's why domain knowledge or expert knowledge is very, very important in data science. There can be another pipeline. So there could be a multiple pipeline of data science which we generate based on our own requirement during the use case. Now this is our whole world, which is having enormous corpus of data. The raw data gets collected, the data is processed, the data is cleaned, and then the data is sent for data analysis. So in data science, there is a very good prominent term called EDA. So whenever you get a data, let's say you're working as a data scientist in any company in the future, your manager has given you a data. So the first thing you will say, hey Kevin, can you tell me the outcomes of your EDA? So by that means, EDA is nothing but exploratory data analysis. That means what each and every attribute of that data given to you is telling. So if let's say I'm your boss and I gave you Amazon's 1 year sales data, and I ask you tomorrow, hey Kevin, what is the EDA that you have gone through, and what's the EDA for the data that I gave you? That means you would have analyzed each and attribute. Customer location is an attribute, customer ID is an attribute, customer bought products, top products bought is an attribute. So let's say what EDA will give you is from which location which are the products we sold more. So product is an attribute, location is an attribute. So when I map my location with the product, then only I can say that okay, from Florida Amazon sold 100 iPhone, from California there were 50 iPhones that were sold, from Washington DC there were 200 iPhones that were sold, correct? So when will I get this insight? When I map one attribute to the other. So when I map my location attribute to my product's quantity and product name. So three attributes need to be combined together, right? I need the location, I need the quantity, and I need the product name. When these three are combined, I can come to an analysis and probably create a pie chart or a graph which shows that which location has bought which product. So that is your EDA, called as exploratory data analysis. Get this term in your brain. It's a very common jargon in data science world, EDA. So whenever I give you a data, even though in your assignments I give you a data, the next question Paul is going to ask you is, hey Kevin, what's the EDA that you have done? Then you will open your Jupyter notebook and show me, hey, I have mapped these many attributes and these are the outcomes that I have gone through. So this is what is called as EDA. So after you do your EDA part, you will build a model which will understand the hidden pattern from the data. Right? Now, based on modeling, what we do, we come out with business insights or product knowledge, and we come out with visualization report. That means if I create a graph of location, product, and quantity and send it to the Amazon management, then only Jeff Bezos can know, right? That Florida has sent this many, sold this many, Washington DC has sold this many iPhone. So because visualization is to represent the data, all the graphs, pie charts, bar graphs, line chart that you see is generated to visualize the data, right? And then based on the report that I generate, I make decision. So if my map or my visualization graph says that 30 iPhones were returned in Florida last year, then I'll go and make my business corrective decision. What was the reason? I'll do a root cause analysis. I'll go and talk to the vendor. I'll say, hey, can you fix it? Else we're gonna have a penalty. That means I took some decision of talking to the vendor and warning him based on my visualization report, which shows that a vendor in Florida has received, or a vendor or a retailer who sold 30 iPhones in Florida received back 20 iPhones because it was defective. Any questions till now, or is the picture clear to you?
That's clear.
You are able to relate this with real time when you order something from Amazon or eBay and you receive a defective product, you go back and raise a request. You can imagine the supply chain and the process that happens and how it is data driven, correct?
Yeah, I can relate. That's correct.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, where are the data science applied? Now, in today's world, you cannot, every other thing that you say you use in life, a digital thing, has a data associated with it. Starting from your television, to your iPhone, to your laptop, to your iPad. You log into Netflix, you watch Social Dilemma, you watch Fast and Furious, you are generating a data for Netflix. Kevin logged in at Netflix from this location of Florida at 9 a.m. Eastern time. watched Netflix and watched Netflix for 2 hours. He was logged into the app. He watched Fast and Furious. He watched Avengers. He watched Harry Potter. So every time you hit an app, you log into Facebook and check your post, you create a like button. Sorry, you hit a like button, you have created data for Facebook. That's the corpus of data that comes in every second. So real-time applications of data science, you see in self-driven cars which are generated by Google. This is a data science application. Text recognition, we'll get into more into this. What are text recognition, image recognition, spam filtering. If you are using Gmail, you would have seen that Google has recently launched a patch where it is able to detect a spam email and it is categorizing your email into social, personal, and others. Correct? How it is doing? That is called as text segmentation. So Google is running an algorithm on all the incoming mails to your Gmail box, and based on the algorithm, it is able to take a decision that which are personal emails. Let's say you are getting emails from Netflix. Okay, these are your, or Facebook. Google is able to identify that these are emails which falls into your social category, or Twitter. Now let's say you are getting emails from your dad or your mom or your company or your bank. Google is able to identify that these are the emails which are into personal category. Rest, any marketing email, any other email you get, it comes into others category. And also when anybody sends you any phishing email or a spam, Google is able to identify it with its spam filtering algorithm. Correct? Then various other applications of data science you would see if you would have used Google Lens. You take a picture, open it with Google Lens. Google Lens will give 30, 40 dots and it will identify what place is it. So if I take a picture of the Statue of Liberty and open it in Google Lens, it will detect that it's the Statue of Liberty and that's the location of the Statue of Liberty. If you take a picture of a dress and apply a Google Lens on it, it will try to search similar other dresses available on the internet and send you recommendation. Why? How it is doing? So it is doing image identification. So Google Lens is detecting the image that you have supplied to it, and it is trying to find similar patterns on the web that are available for you. So these are the various applications. Uber, when you book a cab, it uses GPS, tracks your location, maps it with the cab that is available in your location, allocates you, you get the rider information, the cab comes to your location. This algorithm is data science. Next time, if you would have seen the latest feature in Facebook, whenever you upload a Facebook photo, or let's say your friend has uploaded a photo in Facebook but did not tag you, you get a notification that a photo might contain a facial recognition which matches with you. Because when you upload your photo in your profile, Facebook maps your facial recognition. So next time anybody in the world uploads a photo of cabin, it is able to self-detect that a photo of similar facial recognition has been uploaded. So it sends you a notification. If you have noticed it, that's how it's called facial recognition algorithm. It's a deep learning model that Facebook runs. It's an application of AI based models. There are numerous applications of data science that you can see through Google, Apple, Facebook, all these, Twitter. Right? Okay. So I think we are pretty much approaching the time. So let me just quickly check how much I have for today. So we'll be stopping today at the machine learning part, and in the next session we will continue with the machine learning algorithms. So now, when we talk about data science, what is artificial intelligence and machine learning? These are the very much integral part of data science. So what is AI? This is the textbook definition, but what I can tell you from my learning. So anyways, I'm going to share you this deck and slide. You can always refer to it. But when I say, what do you mean by AI? So what do you understand, Kevin?
I understand it's like the algorithm being used by something like Siri or Alexa to learn your habits and kind of make recommendations. Is that's my general idea of AI.
I'll tell you. So let's say I take this diagram. Okay, the world has enormous amount of data. Okay, so this is the data that I'm generating. So this is the amount of data that I'm generating from the world. The world has this much amount of data, right? And finally, when I do an EDA and clean my data, I have my data in the purest form here, right? Now I am applying a machine learning algorithm to identify the hidden patterns in my data, correct? So when a model learns about the data, which is a replication or come from a real world, we call it as machine learning model or a mathematical model. We call it as a math model also, because models are nothing but it's a math model which takes a lot of permutation, combination, and mathematical calculation to learn what the data is saying. So what is machine learning? Any algorithm which uses mathematical models to learn and observe from the data. Okay, to learn and observe from the data, we call it as machine learning. Okay, now whenever we do a machine learning and my data learns what the data is telling me, and then I take some decisions which are intelligent enough, okay, which are intelligent enough, I call it. And if it is a decision which is taken by the man him, I mean the human itself, it's an intelligent decision. But when the system is capable of taking these intelligent decisions by itself from the data that I have learned, from the data that I've learned from here till here, okay, that is called as artificial intelligence. That means any system which is capable of taking intelligent decision as a human behaves by learning or observing the data from the real world using machine learning algorithms is the entire platform that we explain under data science. So machine learning is nothing but learning about the data from the real world. Artificial intelligence or AI is nothing but something, taking human intelligent kind of a decision. Let me remove this. Okay. Yeah. So taking intelligent decisions or it's a, as taking some intelligent decisions as human. So that's what it says. So AI is an interdisciplinary science with multiple approaches, but advances in machine learning and deep learning are creating paradigm shift in virtually every sector of tech industry. It is a computer science which helps in building smart machines that are capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. Now, as I said, that okay, whenever I find that a vendor in Florida is sending defective products, if a person from Amazon calls that vendor and talks, it is a decision. Now, let's say I create a system where it identifies that the Florida, there is a retailer called as, let's say, vendor A, is the one who has sent 20 defective products. The system automatically identifies that vendor and sends an email or calls up the customer, and then we use a Google Analytics or an Alexa to talk and converse with the customer automatically and inform him. That is called as an AI system, because we have no human intervention, but even the human intervention, the human intelligence that we would have used in talking has been overtaken by a system who is self capable of making a call to the vendor and having a conversation like a human does, right? So that's the power of AI. So what is the scope of artificial intelligence? There are various scopes where AI gets applied. Okay, so scopes are in automation is easy with AI. A lot of automations are happening these days where AI is being used as a massive breakthrough. Intelligent products like Alexa, Siri, Google Home, Cortana, all these are your virtual assistant, right? Which are AI based products. Progressive learning, there are various machines which creates, let's say, there are a lot of e-learning platforms where it identifies your learning pattern and recommends you what are the courses you should go through. Analytics is another important aspect where AI is applied. Any questions till now before we get into machine learning?
Nope, no questions.
Now, what is machine learning? So machine learning is nothing but what we can summarize is a mathematical model that observes and learns from the data in real world. So analyze the data from observation and take decision which replicates human intelligence is AI. So machine learning is all about looking at the past data, making assumption that at least a part of the past will repeat itself, and that we call as information. We need to create mathematical models in machine learning that captures not only information but also helps out to remove unwanted data, which we call it as noise. So any machine learning exercise that you do, okay, and any data that you receive, you will have something like this. Okay, so we can have a data which I can divide into two parts. Okay, any data will have two things: information, and also it will have a noise. Information is something which we need, noise is the unwanted data which we don't need, so we have to exclude it by processing. That's called cleansing of the data. Okay, so what machine learning does, so let's say this is my past, that means my history of data. Okay, and this is my future which I'm trying to predict using a machine learning algorithm. Okay, so I have a past history of data which is information and noise. I'm ignoring the noise. Okay, and my future where I am trying to predict something will also have information and noise. But what happens is, whenever your past information gets into future, you carry the same information, but the noise that is carried forward is not the same. That's that This portion is a little tricky, but we will understand it more when we learn about machine learning and its model. So machine learning always helps you to analyze your past history of data, which is a combination of information and noise, and then identify your future, which will also have information, but whatever noise that gets carried from your past to the future, the noise is not the same, but the information is the same. Why? Because this is a noise which we have already removed and we took only the information. But even though we take only the information, the model can still learn something which is not accurate or incorrect. That becomes my, again, a noise from the model, which is not the noise which I had in my initial data, but it's a new noise or a different noise that gets created in my future data. There are various models of dealing with this predictive noise of the model. How can we, that means nothing but the model has made some mistake. Even humans make mistake, models also make mistake. It's not that any model will give you 100% accuracy. Model also makes mistake. So there are various methods and exercises in machine learning where we tend to minimize this noise and minimize this mistake so that the model can run and learn as much as accurate data excuse me, and hidden pattern as possible. So this is what is all about, we call as machine learning. Any questions to this now, Kevin? Any doubts, any queries?
No, I'm good.
It's clear, right?
Yeah.
You're able to understand, or just let me know if you don't understand the explanation. Then probably I have to take a different approach. But I hope I'm able to explain you the concepts, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because why I'm emphasizing here is if we don't get the basics strong at the root, the concepts that we're going to learn in the subsequent days, it would become tougher.
Okay.
Now, let's see what are the various machine learning algorithms. So, machine learning is nothing but we know that what we learn from the data. So, learning from the data means can we learn about the world around us using the data? So, what we do in a model building, in a machine learning, we take the data as input, we clean the data, we pass the data to a model to find hidden patterns in the data, and then summarize the pattern in a mathematical or a precise way. Machine learning automates this entire model building and data prediction and the hidden pattern analysis. Okay. Now we know that the data can have, information plus noise. So what happens is that in the exercise of machine learning, we divide the data into three different types. So any machine learning algorithm exercise that you do can be divided into three types actually, but two are very major. Two is a little less used. So one we call it as supervised learning, another we call it as unsupervised learning. What is supervised learning? Supervised learning is something called as task driven. Now let's say I have a table of data. Okay, I have a data which has two tables. I have a student's marks and the marks that they have received. Okay, and the salary of the student. Okay, so let's say I have a batch who is going for campus placement, and they have been recruited by certain companies, and based on their marks, the percentage of marks they have received, their salary package was offered. So I have a data which has the marks and the salary that was offered. So let's say I have a data with marks where let's say for 99% marks in percentage. Okay, someone has got, let's say, 100,000 and salary is in dollars. Okay, 100,000. Somebody who has received 98% has got 998 as a salary package. Somebody who has received 96%, or let's say 97, has received 990. Somebody who has received 96% has got $900 salary, and anyone who has received less than 96%, I'm just trying to cut the data, I cannot write everything, has received a salary of $800. So let's say this is a data that I have based on my this year's placement or the campusing that has happened in my college. I have a student's marks and their corresponding salary. Now, if I want to create a model where next time when I pass, now let's say the college has decided to create a mathematical model so that they can identify before itself that if a student receives 96% mark, what is the approximate salary that the company will offer, right? So what they will do, they will bring out the last year's data of what salary in dollars was offered to the students and what is the percentage of marks they had received. So let's say this is the table. This is like a dummy data. It's for like we are creating a toy data to understand. So anybody who has got 99 has received this, anybody of 98 has got this, blah, blah, blah. Now this is data, let's say, is passed into a mathematical model to predict next year. Let's say next year I want to predict if I pass the student's number So next year when I have a fresh students grads coming out, let's say anybody who has passed with 95 percentage of marks, let's say, what is the minimum salary prediction that I can tell that student before the campusing? I'm predicting the future, right? So when I have a data, so that means what, and just focus here, okay? So in machine learning, when we call it as a supervised learning algorithm, what if we are trying to predict? We are trying to predict the salary. So we call always what we are trying to predict, we call it as Y in machine learning. That means Y predict. I'm trying to predict the Y. Based on what? Based on my marks received by the student, which I call it as my X's. So based on my X, which is my mark, I am trying to predict Y, which is my salary. That's the concept of supervised learning. So this X can be many. Now let's say, just for dummy purpose, I've shown you only marks. Let's say I also have a data where I have the students year of pass out, okay, year of pass out, and the average marks they have received. Let's say this is not the marks, this is the GPA. That's the average GPA of the students, gross GPA marks. If you receive, so let's say 2014, 2015, like this, I have the data, right? So 2014, anybody who has a GPA of 99% was offered it $1,000 is the salary package. This is my data. So this becomes my X1, this is my X2, and this is what I'm trying to predict is my Y. This has become a little clumsy. Let me clear that out. So you're in supervised learning, we might have n number of X's, okay? We might have n number of X's to identify my Y. So that means I can have X values like X1, X2 to identify Y. And that means I have my years, I have my GPAs, and I have my salaries. So I want to create a model where if I give only the year 2021 and I want to pass the GPA as 98%, I want to identify what would be the salary package that would be offered. So my model has already learned from this corpus of history of data from last year, or let's say last 2 years or last 5 years data I have for my placement or campusing. And I'm creating a model to predict what would be the salary package offered it to the students for 2021. So in supervised model, when we have X, we call it as X independent variables, which we are using to predict Y. Whenever we have X, 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 and we are trying to predict Y, and this Y is a part of our data, we call it as supervised learning. Okay, we will go more deep today in our subsequent class, but just get the basics today. We will be spending more time on supervised and unsupervised learning algorithms, but just to make you understand what are the various concepts. So when my data has my Y within it, that means the column or the attribute which we are trying to predict. If I'm trying to predict someone's salary, if I'm trying to predict what is the what will be Amazon's sales revenue next year, when your target column, remember this verbiage. So when we are using anything, when all these X's that we use, we call it as independent columns or independent X variables. And what we are trying to predict is our Y, and we call this Y as our target column TC. These are the very common jargons in the data science world. Independent variables to contribute or to identify target column TC. So when I have a data which is already having a portion of my target column That means I have my X, also I have my Y. I call it as supervised learning because my model has X and also knows what is the category of Y. But there can be cases where I do not have Y with me, I only have X's. In that case, I will tell that exercise of machine learning is unsupervised. So let's say so why we call it as unsupervised? Because when I don't have my Y in my data, my target column which I'm trying to predict, we call it as unsupervised. That means, let's say I have been given with, let's say, hundreds of images, okay? And I am asked to create a model to classify whether this image is an image of a dog or this image is an image of a cat. So I don't know what are these images actually. I just have hundreds of images given to me, okay? And I am asked to identify whether any image that is given to me, my model should be able to tell whether it's an image of a dog or whether it's an image of a cat. So when I do such classification, where I have my image as my X variable, but I don't have anything which tells whether it's a dog or a cat, Y is not supplied to me. I have to predict what is the Y without getting to know the type of Y. We call those analysis as machine learning analysis of unsupervised algorithm. So now for time being, just understand whenever your data has the target column supplied with it and you are predicting, we call it as supervised, and in unsupervised, so we might have to, sorry, I did a mistake. So even the classification that we are trying to talk about, dogs and cats, can be both supervised and unsupervised, okay? So if I don't supply or if I don't train my model with anything that is having Y, we will call it as unsupervised. And when we create it with classification of images of the same where my Y is there, we call it as supervised. Now let's say unsupervised, the best example I can give you is clustering. So now let's say I have been given a data of a customer, okay? A purchase data is given, okay? Customer 1, so this is my customer. This is my amount that the customer has purchased. This is the product that the customer has purchased. I have been told to identify what is the customer category. Okay, so now let's say I have a customer C1, C2, C3, C4. They have purchased an amount of $2, $5, $6, and $7 from me. They have bought the product A, she has bought the product B, product C, and product D. Okay, so now based on this columns of customers and this, I am asked to categorize or cluster these customers into 3 categories, whether they are good customer, bad customer, or customers which I can ignore. Something like that. Or let's say, let's make it a little simpler, whether they are good customer or bad customer. So how will I do? I have to create a cluster where I don't know what the Y looks like, but I know that I have a customer category. Okay, I have a customer category where I have various customers with their attributes, and I want to identify to which category they belong to, and I will cluster those customers together. So that's what is your unsupervised algorithm talks about. Okay, so let's say this is the data that represents my customer. So if I want to cluster my customers and identify them, let's say there are 3 categories, red dots and green dots. So red dots are the bad customers, green dots are the good customers, and I can plot them and identify the region where they lie. That is called as clustering. So those are something which are unsupervised algorithms. So when we have an input and an output data, and our objective is to find the relationship between these input and outputs, critically, there is an output already supplied. We call it as supervised learning. Based on an output, we can conclude, how good or bad the model has performed. But in unsupervised learning, there is no labeling. That is data driven. So I don't know to which category my customer belongs. What is the cluster of my customer? This is something I need to create. So when we analyze a set of customers based on different factors and make groups, we then try to understand what makes each of these groups distinct from one another, and we can understand how a customer behaves. Then there are no desired output. We call this as unsupervised. So that means when I create a cluster, I can then find what is the behavior of my customer falling into the green category, or what is the behavior of the cluster of the customers falling into the red category. What the good customer cluster is doing, what is the bad customer cluster is doing, I can identify this. So based on this, we call, so no such ability to analyze how good or bad it is, but we still create clusters. So that's what we call it as unsupervised. When we group or cluster the data, we call it as, unsupervised, where we have only x's and we don't see the y. And when we have x's and y both together and try to predict what's my future y is going to be, we call it as unsupervised learning, right? So with this, I'll conclude today's session. I don't want to, deepen more concept for today. So any questions till now, Kevin, on the supervised and unsupervised?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understood it is for supervised learning, you have multiple independent variables and one dependent variable. And for
Absolutely. You might have x 100x x values. Let's say all customer attribute, customer ID, customer number is my x2, customer location is my x3, customer amount the customer spent is my x4, product the customer bought is my x5. Like this, I can have n number of x's, but I will have only one y. I am trying to identify whether it's a good customer or a bad customer. I want to classify, or I want to cluster. So when I already have a category that, okay, this is a good customer and a bad customer, it is supplied in my data as a y, and any new customer that I get with all these attributes, I am predicting whether it will be classified as good or bad. It is supervised. But when I do not have the category of the customer given to me, and I only have the x's, x1 till x10, let's say, I want to identify the y without knowing about it, and then cluster where my customer falls in like green or red, I call it as unsupervised.
So unsupervised has more than one y? Is that what you're saying?
No. Yes, there y, we cannot say that y will be more, but there will be clusters. Okay, that's why we don't deal in with the concept of y here. Yes, y can vary. Okay. Actually, y can vary. For example, that is called as multi-class classification. So when your y is either a 0 or 1, okay, that means in you know that you have studied aeronautics. So anything in digital or engineering, we represent it in binary, right? So whatever you are trying to do, it can be represented as either 0 or 1 in the system, correct? If I identify good or bad, I cannot pass good or bad to the machine. I have to denote good as 0 and bad as 1. So I will be getting the classification as 0 and 1 in binary. When it is only 2 classification, I call it as binary classification, where my y is a binary. Okay. But when I have been given of hundreds, let's say 10,000 of images, and I want to classify these images, whether it can be a dog or a cat, it becomes a binary. But let's say I want to also identify whether it's a dog or a cat or an elephant or a tiger or a lion. In this case, it is no more a binary. We call it as multi-class classification. That means multi-class means I have multiple Ys to predict, not only one Y. That means my Y predict is not one, but my Y predict is split into Y predict 1, Y predict 2, Y predict 3, where Y predict 1 can be a dog, Y predict 2 can be a cat, Y predict 3 can be an elephant. So it depends upon the use case and what sort of classification that you are doing. So there are various ways, various types also in supervised and unsupervised. Classification is one. There is something called as regression problem as well, which is very, very, very important. We'll talk about regression, linear regression, and all those things in our next class. So you can see here, the regression is nothing but when I want to identify a trend, where a trend is nothing but I'll tell you just quickly, I'll just give you a brief what is a regression. So let's say this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. Linear regression is nothing but a linear trend. Now let's say this is my 0, right? So let's say I have a trend like this, okay? And I have my customers which are falling into here, here, here. These all dots represent my customers, okay? All these x's are my customers that are being plotted in a two-dimensional graph, and I have a linear line which is giving me some sort of a trend or an analysis where I have my values at both sides of the line. So a linear regression is a trend which analyzes me whether my customer falls at the upside of the trend, or I can call this as the downside of the trend. And any customer who is far from my trend, we call it as an outage, we call it as an outlier. That means this guy might be a customer who is doing very bad, okay? We call this line as the best fit line in data science term. So anything that I want to predict will be this line, which is my best, okay, 100%. Now customers falling at different places of this line are the categories of the customer. So the customer who is here is far the distance. There are various ways to calculate distance in data science. We will talk about it. So a customer who is very far from this, best fit line might be, we call it as this is a bad customer for me. He is rated very poor, or he is not giving me a very good business. But a customer who is placed here, who is very much close to my best fit line, might be a good customer for me because I'm earning more and generating more revenue. There can be various lenses to see the data, based on various machine learning exercises that we are going to do. So we will see and talk about regressions more. So one of the supervised learning exercise can be regression, which is a mathematical outcome. Classification can be anything: good, bad, dog, poor, rich, a lot of things. Binary, multi-class classification. Neural net and deep network is something, an advanced version of machine learning. So when your data passes a certain surplus, and we want to use any heavy machine algorithm, we build neural networks or deep learning. That we will also see. Advanced version of machine learning is deep learning. But yeah, machine learning is generally categorized into supervised and unsupervised, where when we have x's and y's supplied together, we call it as supervised. Where we do not see the y's and only have the x's, we call it as unsupervised. Right? Any further questions?
No, I don't have any more questions.
So it's clear to you, right? How the machine learning things are built up, how the machine learning is developed, what are the algorithms, what is AI, what is ML. So now after this session, is your understanding a little more clear what happens in the data science world when you prior to you joining today's session?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I would encourage you to ask questions, and if you don't understand, please stop me then and there, so that you understand the concept, so that we do not lag in the basics. Because once we move ahead and we lack in the basics, that's the troublesome part for us. Because then we do not have time to come back and retrospect at the basics. So please go ahead. I'll supply this deck to Bob. Okay, he will upload it in the portal. along with yesterday's deck with the Python exercises. Please spend time. See, unless and until you spend time and do hands-on, read more about, I encourage you to go and read more articles online. Enormous amount of data you will find on machine learning. Google supervised algorithm and machine learning. You will find 200, you know. So I'll encourage you a few sites which you can read actually. Let me just quickly go. So there are a few sites called as, if I say machine learning, let's say I'm Googling supervised and unsupervised learning. So always follow. Google will give you few top sites, but I'll encourage you to follow sites called as towardsdatascience.com. Okay, this is one of the very popular portal for data scientists. And one more is Medium. I'll just type Medium. Okay, so Medium is again one more website that I personally follow. Anything related to data science you want to learn, ensure you go to towardsdatascience.com and read from there. The explanations and the blogs are pretty much in detail. See, supervised learning, we can have a regression, we can have a classification. I can have a best fit line and I can identify the distances. I can classify and see what are the clusters and all those things. Supervised algorithms is typically done on the context of classification when we want to map input to output labels or regression, when we want to map input to a continuous output. That is supervised. What is unsupervised? The most common task within unsupervised learnings are clustering, representing learning, and destiny estimation. In all these cases, we wish to learn the inherent structure of our data without using explicitly provided labels. That means we do not have Y. Y is also called as labeled data. Okay. So two common use cases of unsupervised learning are exploratory and dimensionality reduction. This is something heavy. We will learn about it later. So you can see what is supervised and unsupervised learning. So you can come and read here as well. Unsupervised learning technique is used when deep learning model is handed with data set with no explicit instruction that what to do with it. The model then tries to automatically find the structure in the data by extracting the features and analyzing the structure. So supervised learning, we have an input data. We interpret what can be done with what can be analyzed within the data. Then the model learns about it, processes about it, and gives me the clustering or the output. The model does not know at all what is this output is. Whereas in supervised learning, yeah. So whereas in supervised learning, you can see that they are saying, that they have an image. They have an image of images which are labeled as cat, which are being passed on to a model, and then the image model is telling whether it's a cat or it's a no cat. So these are something called as labeled data. That means I'm passing something where the model already knows that I have data which is labeled, and it tells me that these are the images of a cat. But whenever I take an image or a data which is not there, which is not labeled, we call it as unsupervised learning. So then there is something called the semi-supervised. We'll talk about that in the next class. I don't want to just confuse you right now. So with this, I'll conclude today's session. I'll share the decks with Bob to upload it in the portal. So any questions, or we are good for the day?
Good for the day.
So how was it? Little heavy, or you are able to understand or grasp the concepts?
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty clear, right? What's happening?
That was a good explanation. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. It's nice. We'll catch up next Saturday. So Saturday we'll catch up at 9:30. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Kevin. You have a good day. Enjoy your weekend there. Bye bye.
All right. You have a good night.